Hello and welcome to episode 173 of the Weekly Song Podcast. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, each of us writes a song, we bring it to the podcast, we have a bit of a discussion about what went into it, what were the themes, what was it influenced by, and we desperately try and cover our tracks as to who we've ripped off this week. So let's introduce ourselves. Would you care to introduce yourself to the lovely ladies and gentlemen and everybody else at home?
Roger Heathers, songwriter, guy who does this podcast with Declan Kitchener.
Hello. Yes, I'm here as well.
173 episodes, 19 seasons.
And we've still not got this down slick yet. Oh, give it time. Oh, how have you been?
I've been pretty good. It's been a busy week. It's been one of those weeks that's just been cram-packed, every hour full. But I've actually made some time to do some writing, do some recording. Not as much as I'd like, but I've got it in there.
It's good that you found some time to do some writing, otherwise this would be a much shorter episode than usual.
I mean, I've said it before, but what if we turned up one week, it's like, I haven't got anything. Sorry. Because for all you know, I mean, I've got a piece of paper here, but that could just be the ramblings of a madman. I mean, it is, but not with chords, you know what I mean?
I would just like to sort of see how far that goes. Like, hello, and we've got all the setup here, we've got the gear sorted, we've made some time to record, and I have nothing.
What a letdown. Well, it hasn't happened yet.
Not yet.
And, yeah, I don't think it's going to touch fake wood. No, is that fake? Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, anyway.
Slick.
Oh, yeah.
173 episodes. So, I believe it's your turn to start this week. So, you've already told us we have the ramblings of a madman in front of us. Please ramble a bit more, you madman.
Okay, so this is my 5th song of this season of the podcast, and it's called Call Me Right Away. And it goes like this. You change my mind when I'm not inclined to slow down and take my time. I need a little distance. 2 days inside with late bills and wine. Too much has passed me by, but this feels a little different. All it takes is a little more conversation. Don't pump your brakes. I can't take any more of my old mistakes. So please don't wait. Call me right away. This is a solo. Imagine it. You crossed my mind the last time I lied and said something like I'd try, and it makes a little difference. Your life's in stone until you go home and find out how fast you've grown when you really go the distance. All it takes is a little more conversation. Don't pump your brakes. I can't make any more of the same mistakes. pipe bomb in the solo. Perfect.
So that was Roger's 5th song this season, Call Me Right Away. And why didn't you call me right away when you told me you were written such a lovely song? It's really nice.
I was going to, but I have to wait until we're here on the podcast or else it ruins the surprise.
He always does this.
But in full transparency, the first verse was kind of inspired by you, unbeknownst to you. So one of the times we recorded...
Is this turning into rumours all of a sudden?
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. So a couple of episodes ago, like when we recorded, like I'd had a kind of like just one of those days, just like I was in a bad mood and
just one of those days, which is definitely Limp Bizkit.
Limp Bizkit, and not at all Linkin Park, as one
and
of us
I've never said this before because the cameras weren't rolling, so it doesn't count.
It's not on record, or is it? But yeah, so I had kind of like one of those days. It was just kind of you don't want to wake up.
See, we're getting now to the bit where you try and hide your influences and you're sort of what you've ripped off. I mean, you've taken it some far away.
I have. I mean, Fred Durst to me is the Paul McCartney of this generation. It really is. And there's the title of the episode. But you came over and we had we hung out a little bit. We did the recording and you cheered me up, basically. And I don't think you knew you cheered me up, but you did. And that kind of inspired the song. I was like, okay, I'm going to write a song this week. That's a pretty good place to start. Just like a friend coming round and you just feel better for having had their company.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, I'm glad to have made you feel a bit better.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, this is like a couple of weeks ago now. I can't even remember that day too well, apart from that. But...
I felt so strongly about it that I'd write a song, but not so much that I can record the details now, on air, in public, forever!
Forever. On record. And then that kind of coincided with me just kind of, as some riffs and chord progressions often start, just watching TV. Just sat on the sofa, guitar like that, kind of like half playing guitar, half paying attention to what's on TV. And I kind of was noodling around with different things. And one of the things I noodled around with was that descending chord progression thing. That
it feels like it's descending forever.
It's like one of the
in a lovely way. It's just like you expect it to stop after 4 and it's just, oh no, we're keeping on going.
It's like... just keep on going. Just detune the guitar slowly. Just kind of came up with that. And I thought, if that's not a verse riff, I don't know what is.
It feels very like there should be something flowing over the top of it. Like, yeah, it's uniquely suited to being a verse, I think.
Definitely, yeah. And it's got so much like melodic information in it. The kind of the top line, or the melody line if you want, is like kind of in there anyway.
But it's also quite harmonically ambiguous in a way as well.
Yeah, it is a bit, because like obviously you're starting in B, and then you go B major 7, A major, E, G, which is non-diatonic, back to B, to E, and then I'll kind of walk down. So there are a few things in there you're like, where's this going? It's, it kind of has a bit of a flow to it, but it's a bit ambiguous, like you say. So I kind of came up with that, and wrote the first verse. You changed my mind, but I'm not inclined to slow down and take my time. I need a little distance. 2 days inside with late bills and wine. Too much has passed me by, but this feels a little different. So it's just kind of painting a vague picture of like a stressful day, not being at your best, but like having someone kind of like bring a new perspective to that sort of thing. So
yeah, I mean, I was getting that vibe like throughout just listening to it for the first time. It's sort of very sort of concise in a way, but you sort of get a full image of what that is. I must admit, when I was looking through, you've got like little notes written in hand next to it, written in ink rather than in hand.
just like yeah.
Use a pen, Sancho Bob.
What does he write on his thing, Sancho Bob? He writes like buy corn holders or something, doesn't he? In blood.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I assumed you were going to go into like a little bridge or something there. So when you went straight down the page, it's like, Oh, we are just going straight on. Okay.
Oh yeah, so for people watching at home, so on this side you have my actual printed lyrics. I just print them out so they're there, and then on this side I write like notes just of like these things to talk about on the podcast, basically.
And by contrast, this is what mine look like. You'll notice no notes because they're perfect.
yeah, just like flawless. So that's like the first draft and everything. And so then, yeah, I just kind of came to like, okay, I need a chorus. So I thought, it kind of ends the verse, and I kind of thought start on a B again, but just kind of rise it up with this sort of positive feeling of like, all it takes is a little more conversation. Don't pump your brakes.
We're just literally going up 1, 2, 3, 4. And
yeah,
then back down
1,
to
2, 3,
2.5,
2.5, 2,
2,
and then to the 5, and then it just kind of does that round. At the end, I don't know why it's called "Call Me Right Away." It just kind of was the words that came out and fit. But I kind of went back to that 3 chord, and I went, and I thought that sounds like one of those old Irving Berlin type of melodies.
Call me right away. I mean, that's a strong chorus line. Like, it absolutely fits in with the rest of what you've established about the song thus far.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of got that in there, and I thought, okay, now that feeling when it's like you write a line that you think, I have a song this week. That was that moment for me. And then
it's depressingly red. Yes.
There's always one moment where you go, oh, a riff. That riff I got is that'll work. And then for the second verse, I thought like, what can I write about in the second verse? So I thought it kind of changes tone a little bit, but talking about somebody else. So it talks about like a family member, someone you kind of go back home and see. If you don't live at home, you go back home and you see them, and you kind of like, I don't know why I went in this direction, but you kind of realize how much they've changed, how much you've changed, and that thing of coming back home, there's quite a lot of difference now.
It's almost like time do keep on ticking when you're not there.
It do. Time keeps on ticking. It keeps on ticking. What if I just kept on doing that indefinitely?
Then we'd have a very long episode of the podcast instead of a very short one.
All the cameras shut off and everything. And then I took a little inspiration from last thing here is I took a little inspiration from your song last week, purely in that, and this was after I wrote the song, so I don't know if I get in trouble for this or what, but I didn't write something new, but when it came time to like printing out the lyrics, I thought, you know what? Last week what you did was you had kind of like higher up chords to kind of like play the first choruses, and then for the final one you kind of went to open chords and you kind of really got a little bit more dynamic and loud with it, and I stole that.
Okay. Well, for clarity, I didn't invent that, so I think you're fine, mate.
It was me thinking that Declan invented dynamic range.
Yeah. I nicked it from Nirvana.
Who nicked it from?
Music.
Just, yeah, generally. Chuck Berry, whoever you want. But yeah, that's...
No music existed before Chuck Berry.
No.
Chuck Berry is the origin myth.
Music, the prequel, Chuck Berry. That's kind of it for this song. It's really simple. It's 2 parts. You'll notice in there, as you kindly provided a solo, there is a solo. The reason for that is because the song's really short. That's kind of it.
I do like sort of those moments where you think like, okay, we're at 1 minute 30. I need to add at least 20 seconds. Solo.
Yes. Again, kind of a trick I stole from you. Again, Declan,
Can I
creator of guitar solos.
Can I claim the royalties on this one?
I think you deserve at least 75%, to be fair.
I'd say 80. Call it 85 and we'll have a deal.
You got it, man.
We got it on camera! We got it on camera!
Time keeps on ticking. But that's pretty much
You can keep that one.
That's not mine. I forget who it's by.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you can keep it. You'll get into trouble for it.
But yeah, that's it for this song. Let's move on to the next section, which is hearing your song. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay. So my song this week is called Hold My Ground, and it goes something like this, if I can remember how it goes. Let's hope. just you. Wear me down, pull me under, shake me out till I'm through. I tried so hard to hold my ground, but slowly you creep into each day, each night too. I'm in so deep that I might drown. I'm gasping, I can't see, surrounded by only you. Always there on my shoulder, whispering in my ear, silver speech, silence going. I can't pay, so you stay near. I tried so hard to hold my ground, but slowly you creep into each day, each night too. I'm in so deep that I might drown. I'm gasping, I can't see, surrounded by only you. And if I try to make my break, you find a way to draw me back. If every night I try to escape, the very day I made it, you be waiting for your next attack. I tried so hard to hold my ground, but slowly you creep into each day and each night too. I'm in so deep that I might drown. I'm gasping, I can't see, surrounded by only you. And if I try to make my break, you find a way to draw me back. Every night I try to escape, I only hold on one day. I'll be free on your chest.
So that was Declan's 5th song of this season, Hold My Ground. And fantastic, so good melodically, love the guitar work. It's great. How did this one start?
It started on Sunday. Can you tell?
The old Kitchener method.
Yes, the old, oh dear, I forgot to organise my week properly. This was a very quick one to write. It only took about, half an hour to get the music, another half an hour for the words. It just started off with that bum 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 bum, and I think those sort of where the stabs happen on those chords feel very cliche to me, like.
Yeah, like you could hear the drum beat implied just in the guitar.
But I think they're sort of like the boom 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 boom. Those individual rhythms, I think I tend to use them a fair bit. So I don't know. But it's like, okay, cool. We've got hours left. Let's go.
I like that you went into that with the vocal rhythm too. The vocal is doing those rhythms too.
Again, this was a case of we've got hours left. Let's go. It was a bit of a pain in the bum actually to try and get that to try and get that second part right, because originally what it was instead was. So instead of going, it went.
Oh, okay.
So like I ended up like just so many times like when I was doing the demo of it, just like going or like just getting it wrong and not getting under my fingers. On one time it was a notes on the G string that needed to move. The other time it needed to go down to the D string.
Oh my gosh.
Or just like that's a voicing that came out quite a few times.
Yeah, I mean for the audio listeners, Declan was really stretching with the thing that he was doing before he got to this current iteration. Yeah, that guitar stand isn't the best in the world. And so I mean, it's a complicated guitar part, especially because you're playing an A flat. Why A flat?
Because it sounds nice.
It does sound nice.
Also, it sort of is kind of nice for my voice. So I have a relatively limited range. Hold on. Guitar's coming back out. So that's fine. Fine most of the time. Can probably do it once in a blue moon. And that fine most of the time is where the top of that chorus comes.
Oh yeah.
So that's I tried so hard to hold my ground. Like if you do it in A. I tried so hard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tried so hard. Tried. Yeah, you can tell that there is a limit being approached there. Try.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think from what you've just said, you've chosen the right key. I think that makes sense.
Yes, it's where I can put power and also keep some in reserve because it's quite a long sentence that I have to get through.
Well, yeah, it's quite like wordy. Like it's really rhythmic in the chorus. Like you're really kind of filling up the syllables there.
Well, the trouble is that it's just two chords. It's just C sharp and A flat, which is the 4 and the 1. So it's just like. That bit was like a bit of a nightmare because you've got to have a nice long sentence, but that can be broken up into like 2 or 3 syllable sections.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like I'm gasping, I can't see, it's around. It's it's really broken up.
What I like about this chorus is like until you just told me it's 2 chords, I would not have guessed that because what drew my attention was the melody and the lyrics.
It's just descending from the highest note I can do to a note where I can sort of keep it going. Again, it's not a very complicated song. It's like built out of little bits that I can do quickly.
Yeah.
So like it's basically the 1 chord through the verses. It's the 4 and the 1 through the choruses, going to the 5 to sort of reset. E flat in this case, and in that bridgey section, it's F minor, C sharp, E flat. Anyone who like actually studies music theory is going to be annoyed by the fact that I keep switching between sharps and flats. Deal with it. So yeah, that's the 4, 5, and 6 of that one.
Yeah.
They fit.
They do fit.
Yeah. And again, it's just, I think I sort of had an idea for the melody. It's like, it wasn't quite that shape, but it was more or less there. It's just like, okay, 6, 4, and 5 work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the reason it repeats twice is because it's a nice little trick. I don't use it very often, but I do like it. Of like just repeating a bridge section at the end of a song to sort of build something back up again, and also add length to song, be very short.
Oh yeah, same for me. Time keeps on ticking.
The time do keep on ticking. And the place I heard it used most obviously, I think, is Steve McQueen by The Automatic, which is a song that I really love, and I had as my ringtone for years. So I can't listen to that song without getting anxious and I'm about to be called by someone.
Right.
Like literally I hear that first and I just like, oh, where is it?
Yeah. Oh my god, I'm late for something. So music first, as usual?
Oh, as always, darling, as always. Apart from that one time, but we don't speak about that.
No, we do not. It feels like the lyrics are written at the same time, and I mean that as a compliment in that they mesh together well.
Well, they were written only half an hour afterwards, so...
Well, again, Sunday with only hours to go, as you said.
Yeah, only a couple of hours left. Let's go.
Yeah. Did the lyrics come easily? And also, what inspired the lyrics?
Running out of time. Can you tell? What kind of inspired them is that sort of feeling of like, when you run out of time, you sort of start tracing everything back to one thing. So like, for example, I need to do this for work tomorrow, and I need to do that for work tomorrow, and actually I need to keep tomorrow free because I'm doing that for work. Hold on, these are all the same thing.
And also, I've got to edit the podcast and I've got to record the podcast.
And then you start looking at other things like that, like, I need to make time for the podcast, and I need to do this, or like, and I need to go and see my friends in that city, and also I need to do that in that city, I also need to do that in that city.
And your schedule gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter.
And they all wean their little way, wrap around your schedule. It's just like, okay, my schedule shall pull me from pillar to post, and I give in. I'm not fighting it anymore.
I like that because like the general tone of the lyrics to my ear is kind of like, I'm sick of this, I don't know what to do, but like the first line is, I give in, I'm not fighting, which I really like. It's kind of like a almost zen thing of like, fuck it, it is what it is, I'm here.
Yeah, okay, I've tried one way, it's not working, let's try the other way.
Yeah, exactly.
And then my song for week 7 shall be How It's Going. It will probably just consist of me just going,
look out for Declan's Screamo album coming soon.
I'm sure that was beautiful for the audio listeners.
The audio listeners are like, what is going on? I mean, that's your new style. You know what I mean?
Just like primal screaming into the void until it screams back. The coward.
In the key of C major.
Oh yeah, of course. It's got to be compliment.
Or A flat, as is your want.
Yeah, well, we can work with keys. We can shift the screaming of the abyss down to B flat. I can go up. It's all fine.
So like the lyrics came pretty quickly because they had to.
Yes. The music came pretty quickly because it had to. And it just works. It just works all round. It's just really melodic, and it just kind of, I've got it in my head right now. Thank you.
Which is always a good sign.
Well, I mean, you have only just heard it. It is the last piece of music you have heard, unless you've got like earphones on, and you're listening to something else at the moment. So, but yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I actually included a sort of version of a common saying in here, which I know you like to do.
Mm.
So silence is golden, but the full phrase is speech is silver, but silence is golden.
Is it really?
Yeah. All these phrases get just condensed down to like the easiest, worst versions of them. Things like the customer is always right. Is actually the customer is always right in matters of taste. It's about supply and demand, not about customer service. And the same as like silence is golden. It's not about shut up. It's speech is silver, silence is golden. So it's like, okay, stop speaking and listen.
Yes.
So that's
interesting.
Again, that's one of the little tool. You've picked some tools from my toolbox. I've picked this tool from your toolbox.
That sounds good. I want 70%.
Deal. I'm on 85, he's on 70. I've got better at this.
Oh my god, I forgot. Oh.
Too late now, we got it on camera.
No.
This is how you get ahead in music.
Get 70% of my 20p Spotify streaming royalties.
Hey, you're getting like 0.00001 of a p of mine, so...
Yes. That's rent taken care of this month. So, we listened to our songs this week. All went very well.
Yes,
all
yes.
good.
Yes.
And now, let's talk about some stuff we've been listening to. What's been on your radar this week?
Depressingly, not very much. But the thing I've been listening to is a slightly nerdy thing. Slightly nerdy. So, Red Dwarf.
You're still in a Red Dwarf kick, I love it.
I've finished the first novel nearly, so I think I'm approaching the end before I have to start reading the later books.
Until you have to. This is something you're dreading.
The last two books are written in alternate continuities from each other from the same cliffhanger. It's weird.
Right.
But the thing I've been listening to is the music score. The DVDs of the individual seasons have the music cues sort of on them, so you could just sort of listen to them through. And annoyingly, they didn't come off with like a DVD ripper. I couldn't just rip them out from the file, so I had to sort of set up. I have a copy of Fraps, which is a screen recording software designed for games. So I had to sort of play them through the DVD program, get Fraps to record them off, and then split them up into the individual files. So when you like, sometimes it's fine where it's like, okay, it's this version of the theme, you can do this, or it's 2 hits of like dramatic music, it's fine. When you see things like additional music cues, 17, and they're all like 2 seconds long, I was just like, okay.
So there's no CD of this anywhere?
No, it's a cult BBC show from the 90s.
Right, sure.
Plus the individual seasons already have all the score on them anyway.
Well, now you split them up and splice them, you could put them online on a forum or something. I don't know what people do.
Well, the trouble is that A, they're on a product that's already released at the moment, and B, that's piracy, and C, all the Red Dwarf fans already have them. Oh, yeah. Because they're on the DVD sets.
Oh, of course, yeah. So if you want them, you already have them, but maybe not in the format you're after.
Yeah. Makes sense. It's Howard Goodall who did the music. Howard Goodall, who also did the theme music for Blackadder and for Mr. Bean. And he also did a How Music Works TV show that we both quite like. It's kind of a good primer for music theory.
And it's fun too. It's a fun introduction to music theory.
And he's done like bits about composers, like programmed biographing composers, which go from like classical composers all the way up to the Beatles. He actually does like a serious deep dive on the Beatles. In fact, around the time of Sgt. Pepper's anniversary, he did a few programs on the musical theory behind it. Yeah. But yeah, it's a mixed bag, the Red Dwarf sound recordings, because it's not designed to be listened to, it's designed to go in a TV show. Right, of course. So for every like funny song, or for every like really identifiable piece of backing music, there'll be one thing that was like designed to be played on the TV in the background that you weren't meant to hear. Or you'll have some really famous music cues like ba 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 ba, which gets used all the time. Or there'll be like a jokey transition theme from series 1 that they never used again because it sounds a bit naff. Oh, okay. Or you have pieces composed for specific episodes, like a couple of bits from series 7 which were actually done with small orchestras and everything. They sound amazing. Oh wow. Or then you'll have like early 90s synth, we've got to get some action music on here quickly kind of thing.
Like, we haven't got a budget or time for this one. Yeah. Hurry up. Well, use that synth over there.
It's the BBC. It was very low budget.
Oh wow. It does sound like a mixed bag then.
But it's interesting in the same way that like listening to like BBC Radiophonic Workshop stuff for Doctor Who is interesting to me, in that even on the stuff which doesn't work, or you can see the process behind it, and it's interesting to hear stuff in the context of the program where you think, oh, that sounds really cool, and then you just listen to it and it's like, those synthesizers sound really naff out of the context of the program. Yes. But in the context it works.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes like you watch a film and there's like a song in the film and you go, oh, that's beautiful, I've got to listen to that song. You seek out the song and you hear it outside of the context of the film and you go, it's good. But like, because it doesn't have the surrounding context, it's like it's not quite as good.
Or like bits where like you remember, I think Red Dwarf has got a great soundtrack, but you remember all the memorable bits for obvious reasons. And so you'll hear like the famous transition bits, or you hear the comedy songs or the theme tune. My God, what a theme tune. But then you forget so much else is in there. It's like this, we think the Star Wars soundtrack is great. Yeah. Which Star Wars soundtrack? Because what we're thinking of is a compilation of all of them.
That's a good point. And like there was no Imperial March until Empire.
Exactly, yeah. Or going to Return of the Jedi. Like, do you like Yub Nub? Or do you like celebration music? Can you tell what I think? You're just remembering all the bits that you like from the originals, all the bits you like from the prequels, all the bits you like from the sequels, and you're just cutting out the rest of the movie where like the music is just fine and it works.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so like how many tracks were there in total when you like split them all up and stuff?
Varied between 8 and 10 per season, but a lot of those ended up being like a dramatic score times 5, romantic score times 3, character theme times 2, which is kind of weird as well because there are certain themes that fans know as certain bits, like the Space Observatory sort of bit of music, which is a identifiable piece of music, and it's really sweet and lovely. It's a bit 80s and plinky, but it's a bit of pathos in the early series.
Charming.
And it's buried in the character themes bit.
Oh!
Because we all think of it as like the Space Observatory theme, but that's clearly like it's just a piece of transitional music for them. It just so happened that it only got used on those couple of scenes.
Oh, interesting. So it's almost like kind of miscategorized then in a way.
Well, it's more like the fans build it up as being something.
Right.
Or like they have their piece of music for it.
Mm.
Like to give a minor example for Doctor Who, I think most people think of the 11th, the doom 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 from Matt Smith's years is like the 11th Doctor's theme, except that piece of music is actually called "I Am the Doctor."
Right. Okay.
But it's so tied in with his era of the show, and it's used in the big action bits and as the theme for his Doctor that we all know it's called "I Am the Doctor."
Yeah.
But it's the 11th Doctor's theme.
Yeah, exactly.
I just decided to I like that as well because there's a bit of a musical joke in there. So the theme it alternates between 7/4 and 4/4.
Mm.
And if you add 7 and 4 together, you get
11. The 11th Doctor.
Yeah.
Was that on purpose?
Has to be.
Has to be. Must be. That's crazy though. Yeah, it's funny how like kind of almost history and the fans of a thing can rewrite what something is.
Or we have a very different idea about it to what the creators have of it.
Exactly.
Because they get to see it work in progress and things get developed, and like going back to the Space Observatory music, they could probably have been thinking, oh, we'll just put that on any sad scene.
Yeah.
Just so happens that the only 2 sad scenes in that series were in that one location, and it gets linked more with there than anywhere else.
That makes sense, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, you know this stuff. Like, you go back into these things and you kind of like, you pick these things apart and you kind of know these details and stuff, Whereas
that's because I'm a massive nerd.
But that's cool though. I like that. I mean, most casual fans wouldn't kind of like know those sort of like tidbits and stuff. It's cool.
Yeah. So, enough of me rambling about sci-fi shows that I like.
That's interesting.
Let's stop before he gets on to Blake 7.
No!
So, what have you been listening to? Please tell me it's actual music.
I mean, that's actual music. It's just, you have to like rip it with a piece of software, that's all. I mean, it's not the same thing, but the artist I've been listening to this week is Paul Gilbert, who I've mentioned on the show before.
You're a bit of a Paul Gilbert fan.
I am so much, and more as time goes on.
So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's special guest.
Oh my god, can you imagine?
Not Paul Gilbert.
Oh my god, well, I wish now I just want him to be on the show.
You can write him an email.
I actually have written him an email before. In fact, a friend of mine at school...
Did you sign it, Declan? So if he turns it down, you can have another go at yourself.
Yes. A friend of mine at school actually emailed Paul Gilbert when we were both into it, when we were like 14, and he got a reply. I think my friend said something like, blah, 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 thank you for rocking my socks off. And then Paul Gilbert replied, something, I can't be held responsible for your socks. Very funny. But anyway, I've been listening to an album called Alligator Farm, which I think is his second solo album.
That sounds quite dangerous.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, you don't want alligators on a farm, unless you know what you're doing with them, and you have one of those things that's like a loop on the end of a stick.
But just remember, an alligator is not just for Christmas; it's for life.
It is. It is. And yeah, it's been an interesting listen. I mean, I've listened to it so many times, but like it's one of those albums that kind of improves with each listen. So and it's kind of a genre roulette album in a way. So you got songs like Individually Twisted, which is just a straight ahead rocker about I don't know what it's about actually. Being individually twisted, but it's just great,
As opposed to being twisted within a group.
Yeah, and like big drums, great electric guitar, amazing guitar solos, but then you got things like Whole Lotta Sonata, which is like it seems like on every Paul Gilbert album he does like a little bit where he does like a 2-minute composition that's like in the style of Bach or in the style of Mozart or something, where he makes something that's a guitar composition instrumental, but on electric or acoustic guitar.
Just you saying sonata, I'm just immediately thinking Glenn Miller.
I wish. Actually, I don't wish. I like Glenn Miller, but
so do I.
Has he got a song called Sonata?
Moonlight Sonata.
Moonlight Sonata, of course. Yeah, like Beethoven. Yeah, of course. But yeah, there's that, and I mean, there's just a whole load of different things. It's like it's just a really, really good rock album with loads of good songwriting. So I've been digging that. But similarly to you, with not having access to the format you really like, I was like, you know what, I might treat myself and buy the vinyl of that album. But these albums were after his giant boom of popularity with Mr. Big. So you can buy Mr. Big on vinyl, no problem, because it's like a really popular band. But his solo stuff was released on a label and everything, but it was a smaller label that at the time of like 2000, 2002 sort of era, vinyl wasn't massive then, so I think they just pressed it to CD and that was the end of the story. So you can get CDs, but even they're expensive on Discogs. It's
there's an era of music where just the vinyl revival hadn't properly kicked back in yet, or like smaller bands couldn't do it. There's a band I like called Def Havana, who their second album, which was the one that got me into them, Fools and Worthless Liars, that was a big success of them. They did like a deluxe version on CD, but they've never done a vinyl version of it. And the third album, the following one, they did an American vinyl, which I imported.
To the detriment of your wallet.
They did vinyls from that point on, because vinyl would come back, but they've never done Fools and Worthless Liars. And I so want them to do it so badly. And it's gone past like the 10th anniversary.
Which is when it would have happened.
And like I'm just holding out now for, I can't remember when it was released, but I'm like holding out for like 15th anniversary, 20th anniversary. Come on, get it on vinyl. I want that plastic disc.
I know.
I won't be young forever.
It's so annoying, isn't it? It really is. What can you do? Just write to
hold them to ransom.
Write to your local, MP. That's all you can do.
To get it discussed in the House of Commons.
Like. Yeah, exactly.
And the next order of business... I don't know why I'm doing the scroll. And the next order of business...
Scroll? When are you from, 1840?
Trouble is, I've just been watching that Blackadder election episode, because obviously we've just had one over here, and just it's my little ritual.
I love it. But yeah, that's been what I've been listening to this week. Paul Gilbert, if you're watching this, which I imagine you probably are, please just press those solo era albums on vinyl, please. I really like his later stuff as well, but it's more like guitar instrumental stuff, which is cool and it's really, really good. And it's like I checked out those albums recently too, but the stuff with vocals, songwriting based, I think I read that he's a big fan of Todd Rundgren as well, which you can kind of hear in there too. And when I read that, it was like, I squeed, as they say, and I was like, oh my god, he's into him, and I like them both. So, yeah, that's this week.
Fair play.
Okay, so that is it for episode 173 of the Weekly Song Podcast. Thanks very much for joining us and listening to us ramble and talk songs and talk music. Hopefully you've gleaned a lot from this. You know what I'm saying?
Hopefully you've learned things you never wanted to learn.
If you want to get in touch with the show, please do. We always love a bit of correspondence with our listeners. You can email us at weeklysongpodcast@gmail.com. Email us with any questions, comments, suggestions, thoughts, songs you've written in a week. We always like to take a listen and play them on the show. You can also find the Weekly Song Podcast on Instagram @weeklysongpodcast, Obviously, for visual viewers, you know this because you're literally watching it now. But for audio listeners, the show is also on YouTube now. So you can check out Weekly Song Podcast on YouTube by searching simply Weekly Song Podcast.
And for visual watchers, if you are tired of the sick of our faces, we do an audio version as well, so you don't have to put up with this.
Exactly, yeah. You could just be driving along in your car.
You could do that with the video version anyway. It's just that the police pull you over, you're fucked.
We at the Weekly Song Podcast do not endorse driving and watching the podcast. There we go. That should hold us up. What are you doing? I'm trying to cover our asses in court.
You have to wait and see the episode now.
Yeah, Declan does all the audio, the video editing. Sorry, and I do the audio edit. So. Okay, so you can find also our duo project. It's called Schnookums, and which is SCHNOOKUMS.
Thank you for going slowly.
Well, you have to edit the letters on, so of course. And yeah, you can find us. We've got an album out right now called Attaboy. It's our debut album, and we're both really proud of it, and we'd love you to take a listen to it. Declan, where can people find you and your solo music online?
Well, you can find me here every week doing the podcast. Haven't you learnt this yet? We've done 19 seasons. But for my solo music, you can find it on all good music streaming services and probably some bad ones too. Spotify, iTunes, Tidal. I don't know anymore. I always say Deezer as a joke, and now it's just become a list of the things I do. Cobas, I don't know if I'm on there. Someone go and find out. That's your homework. You can find me on Bandcamp if you want to give me some actual money.
And also you get to then own the MP3s and high quality WAVs or FLACs.
Juicy WAVs.
Or FLACs if you're that way inclined.
Well, I mean, it's a modern world we've got to tolerate.
It is the 90s. Yeah.
So, where can people find MP3s or WAVs or FLACs or just the juicy streamings of your music?
Well, pretty much all the same places. How
is it a place or a space?
Is it a place or a space? If it's online, it's digital. I don't know.
It's a happening.
So you can find my music on Bandcamp, rogerheathers.bandcamp.com, on all the normal Spotify's, all the normal streaming
all the normal Spotify's,
and some of the strange ones too.
Here's one.
And just search Roger Heathers on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, all those different places as well. Follow me on Instagram at Roger Heathers, and that'll do it. What do I say now during the intro? Welcome to the Weekly Song Podcast.
It just goes round in a loop forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
We're stuck in a time eddy! Ah!
Join us next week for our 6th songs of this season. And
as well as some sick songs in this season.
Sick, bro. I wish I didn't do that.
That's staying in forever.
And we'll see you next week on another episode of the Weekly Song Podcast. Ta-ra!
Ta-ra.